here live with some very special news. Apparently there's a big one going on. Yes, that's right. The Salmonids are invading Wahoo World yet again. Seems like they can't get enough. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and let Shiver and Farai and Big Man do their spiel. This is what, the third big one in Wahoo World? By the way, my name's Nikki. I'm here joined by Okamu. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. The skies in game are as red as the battles we have coming at you tonight. Red hot. We have got KSU and... oh no, it didn't load. There we go. KSU, Wildsharks, and SplatSCAD Orange for you first up tonight, followed by another match later, but that'll be some other people on the mic then. Right now, it is just us.
Absolutely, fantastic. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, we got KSU Wildsharks going up against SplatSCAD Orange. Two well-established teams in CCA, I believe. They're definitely no strangers. Been around for a while. Also, I need to correct myself. Apparently, I was mistaken right off the bat. The Salmonids are invading Inkblot Art Academy. My bad. But that's besides the point. We're here for CCA after all. Yeah, two well-established teams. Right now, I believe this is in Division 4, Group 2. KSU is already off to a great start this season, winning their first match quite decisively, going 4-1 against, who was it? UCF Green, I think? Point is, they won. SplatSCAD off to a bit rougher of a start. They lost their first match, exact same record, just in reverse, going 1-4 against the Siberian Squids of Yukon. To be fair to them, that is the top-seeded team in their group, so definitely a tough matchup. These two teams are, according to seeding, they should be a bit closer in skill level, but we're gonna have to see. The stakes are a little bit high for SplatSCAD. Having one loss already, if they lose again, they may already be out of contention for playoffs. So, probably some jitters going on right now, but either way, I'm sure everyone's very excited to get into this.
Yeah, no kidding, and not just going up against their opponents, but also the Salmonids. SplatSCAD is an art team, as a school add-in. A team at an art school, Inkblot Art Academy under attack. Things might be a bit difficult tonight for them, but we'll just have to see how that works out.
Yeah, very thematic. Anyways, look at the map list. We got a good mixture of some classic map modes and also a few spicy picks. Game 4 in particular is looking real funny. But looking at what's coming up first, we got Museum Clams, what I would consider to be an all-time classic for a Clam Blitz in Splatoon 3. Okamu, any particular thoughts on this map mode?
Oh boy, there's just a lot of ways that you can get up to this basket. You have got that main choke point at the ramp, pushing up onto plat. From there, you can go left around spinner, right around spinner, or even right up the spinner itself onto that higher grate. You've got that block sitting in corner, down on the bottom layer, giving you yet another way up behind that pillow for cover. Very tricky map if you can't keep control of your plat. And even if you do have control of your plat, you're gonna be looking to push into mid, those open sight lines being so great for longer range weapons. We'll have to see what kinds of comps they bring out. Will it be fast and nimble to take advantage of those different angles, or more slow, focused on that longer range?
I couldn't have said it any better. Plat really is the name of the game here. If you control your plat, it's very difficult for the enemy team to move in on the basket. And that choke point on the far right side of the map is definitely where most of the action is going to go down. You want to establish strong control over the right-hand side of the map, and then hope to work your way up the ramp. Probably some strong special coordination, clear off the plat, with power clams at the ready, and then if the stars align, you should have a fantastic push on your hands. Taking control of the mid spinner is such a great place to pop specials from. A very open sight line though. It's a map where there's a lot of little things going on, but it plays quite traditionally, I'd say. I find Museum Claims to be a map mode that largely comes down to which team has the better fundamentals rather than which has any particular gimmick or advantage to exploit on the map. But speaking of which, we're hopping right into this game. Seems like both teams are very excited to get started. Okamu, any thoughts on these comps?
Well, I can tell you right away, it looks like we've got two very different approaches to this match. On the side of, we've got Crescent here with the heavy edit Splatling, focusing more on a bit of this rushdown comp with the Dread for support, that short-range shooter, and the Carbon Roller sneaking around, versus that Pencil on the other side with Door, taking a bit of those longer sight lines into account. We've got both coolers out now, fighting in mid.
Yeah, an explosive start from both teams. Each team going 2 down immediately, but again, as you mentioned, they were cooler, so those first 2 picks on both sides don't mean much. It seems like both teams are falling into mid. The Headed moving up a bit more aggressively than the Pencil, but it seems like they're going to fall back. Zuka online for SplatSCAD, which, by the way, I love that SplatSCAD Orange is appropriately in Orange Ink. Very nice. Setting up very aggressively on the mid spinner. That's exactly where they want to be, getting such an amazing sightline over the enemy plat. But if SplatSCAD going 2 down, they're going to be forced to retreat.
Yeah, and not only that, we've got the bucket on the opponent plat here and 2 specials lined up. That jet coming out from Ink right now. We've also got that Zipcaster online that can be used to use this higher area on Museum to really create these new angles. Here, it's coming out right now. Here we see, maybe, yeah, dropping down on Crescent. Will it find it? No, deny.
Yeah, fantastic defense on the side of SplatSCAD. Specials were, or excuse me, SplatSCAD. KSU popped basically every special they had on it, but SplatSCAD kept their cool and shut down basically everyone, forcing the last one to retreat completely. We're gonna fall back into neutral. What a DC on the side of SplatSCAD. No. That is very unfortunate. It looks like the players are electing to continue. Maybe? We might have some internet issues here. Seems like they're gonna elect to play it out. It's gonna be an uphill battle for SplatSCAD being down a player, but they did just get a fantastic near wipe there. It's just a Dreadringer, kind of forced to fall back. Oh, taking a 1v2, there's not much they can do. Yeah, this is gonna be a very difficult fight for SplatSCAD now.
Yeah, uphill battle notwithstanding, we again have this sort of double special situation on the side of KSU here. Coming in with the strikes, looking for the jet soon, perhaps, but that pencil still has not quite... Oh, there they are, onto the mid-spinner. Here we go. Let's see what they can...
say that they fall back, unfortunately, but, I mean, again, like, that mid-spinner is exactly where the backlines want to be. If the pencil's up there, they have such an amazing range of view over the entire plat, and can just clear them off so well. Dreadringer is going to take a fight with one. Teammate trades for them, but again, like, with basically everyone else on the team dead, there isn't much they could do to follow up on that opportunity.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate here when we see that one person down constantly on the side of SplatSCAD. It's just so difficult to really get things moving forward. Despite how many specials you have, you're constantly one person down, and that's one person that could be painting mid. That's someone who could be pushing forward with you, but regardless, they're still getting picks and holding this pretty neutral overall.
I was going to comment on that. Despite SplatSCAD being down a player for basically half the game at this point, I mean, they were holding the basket firm. KSU has yet to score, although it looks like they're going to have a good opportunity here. It's just a T-Tech. Power Clam is going to be dunked. Doesn't look like they have much of a follow-up, though. The Pencil's trying to sneak a few claims here. They're going to get one in. Super jumping out. Definitely the right decision there. Honestly, not a huge push from the side of KSU, but oh, never mind. They're going to sneak in one more, it seems like. Maybe a few more. The team is making a desperate last-second push. Not going to make it. They are going to score. Points are on the board. If only a minute left, SplatSCAD's going to need to make something happen sooner rather than later as they get wiped. Oh, this is not looking good for them at all.
Yeah, wipeout really isn't what you want to see, especially when you're already down a player. And KSU following up right away with another power clam. Pushing us down. Are we going to get past that 60 mark? Oh, there it goes.
They have the claims to do it. Ooh, that's really not... Yeah, so here's the big push KSU was looking for. That first basket was just the appetizer. Now the main course is coming in, and they are feasting on SplatSCAD. Huge push. And again, it's not done. They still have plenty of clams online. SplatSCAD kind of stuck in their own spawn. Again, you can't really blame them when they're down a player. With less than 30 seconds left in the game, they really got to make something happen ASAP to turn this game around.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to require some stellar play on the side of SplatSCAD here, and going another person down with the carbon roller, getting picked off by Dora on the pencil, and another one down. The shotgun is down. This is just a rough situation, getting rougher by the minute. Cooler and Zipcaster online for KSU. Overtime is active, but if you're SplatSCAD, what can you do here? You've got Reef Slider, but it's just difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they really were stuck in an awful situation. Less than 20 seconds left in overtime to basically get across the entire length of the map. And again, when you're down a player, that makes things really difficult. Definitely an unfortunate start to the set. I mean, it stings to lose, but it stings a million times more when you have a DC. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. You know, Splatoon 3 Wi-Fi, it has hiccups every now and then. Let's keep our fingers crossed that this was just a one-time thing, and we could hopefully get a bit more even of a match from here on out.
Yeah, you know, I do have to wonder, it was the first match. They would have been able to just replay it. I do have to wonder what caused them to play it out. Maybe something we don't know, but on screen here, we've seen more of that ability of SplatSCAD, even with that DC coming out. They're able to hold this mid for so long, just the three of them. And I do think that's worth complimenting here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as soon as I brought it up, KSU ended up scoring, so I guess a bit of commentator's curse there. But yeah, like, they held the line down for most of that game, and it's especially impressive, because looking back at this footage, you gotta remember, it was the headed specifically who DC'd, and that headed really is the defensive core of SplatSCAD's comp. And even without that defensive core, they were still holding the line very admirably. Of course, towards the end of that game, they started to get overwhelmed. They were getting outpaced. KSU seemed to realize, oh wait, like, they're down a player. Why are we playing so passive? They kind of just unloaded on them, and then from that point on, as you're seeing here, the game just kind of snowballed out of control from there. But for that first, like, 2 minutes when they were down a player after the headed DC'd, like, you gotta give them credit. They were doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I think the loss of that headed, as you were saying, really shows just how well this aggressive comp can really work for SplatSCAD here, because even without that headed, those frontliners are able to perform so well on their own. I cannot wait to see how they do once that headed is back in play.
Absolutely. And again, speaking of the headed, the other big thing to note about the headed being out of that game is that SCAD was playing coolerless. I mean, fighting the 3v4, that's rough enough, but fighting the 3v4 where one team has cooler and you don't, like, that is the definition of uphill battle right there. And again, like, I'm pleasantly surprised to say that they were doing a pretty good job, all things considered. So really hoping that headed can get back in. Hopefully their internet stays together. And then we can get a proper 4v4 and we can see these teams duke it out on even footing. But on that note, moving into game 2, it is, oh, I already forget the map list. Thank you, producer. We're looking at Umami Zones. I'm gonna be honest, Okamu, this is one of my least favorite map modes in the game, so I really shouldn't be the one talking about it. How do you feel about it?
Well, I play E-Leader, so I love this map mode. This is my favorite mode for Umami, actually. That choke point is particularly difficult to break, but the open sight lines on this map for long-range weapons are so beautiful to witness. But with that said, there is still, I noticed that double bucket comp we saw, that can potentially really have an interesting impact on Umami. We have that central spine of the map in the center. Those buckets can hit over it, across it so easily. It is such an excellent spot for the Slosher class to show what it is capable of, whether that be Dread, V-Bucket, or even a Try. I cannot wait to see what double bucket looks like on that map.
I completely agree. It's definitely a strong map for Bucket. Lots of slopes, a lot of elevation changes. It is interesting in these Game 2 situations to see if teams are going to run with the same comp all the way through, if they're going to make any significant changes. I mean, KSU's comp running that double bucket was definitely unorthodox. And I also want to point out, SCAD, not without a bucket of their own. They were running that Dreadringer in the previous game. And Dreadringer does have quite the powerful niche in zones. Slider's fantastic for just flipping a zone on a dime. Umami being a dual-zoned map is harder to do that with because you can only really cheese one zone at a time, but it's definitely still powerful. So I'm going to be interested to see if they bring those buckets back, if they bring back the Reef Slider on the side of SCAD. Yeah, like, a lot of things to look forward to this game, I'd say. I'm just hoping we don't get a 1-minute lockout situation like what seems to always happen on Umami.
Yeah, that choke is brutal. I actually had the fortune of being able to cast this exact map list last week due to a series of unfortunate events. But we really saw that Umami lockout happen last week. The ability of a team to just push into your spawn and leave you with just a little bit of inkable terrain to stand on. It's so hard to farm your specials. Once you get them, you can only push back up to your choke. You can't even get into mid. It is rough. So we're gonna have to see these teams, if they're put in that situation, be calm and be creative, sending people into that bottom area if they see everybody else is stacked on right. It's that kind of awareness that can really make or break that choke on Umami.
For sure. I mean, once again, I couldn't have said it better. That choke point is really the playmaking spot of the map. Again, assuming we see the same comps, if we see a headed versus pencil kind of situation, like that snipe overlooking the choke is where they're gonna want to set up, and if they get there, it's gonna be difficult. Looking at their comps, pretty significant changes on the side of SCAD. In KSU, swapping out their pencil for a headed, and also bringing out a tent umbrella, still running double bucket though, so good prediction on your part, Okamu.
Yeah, double bucket notwithstanding, we have a tent umbrella. That's basically a completely different comp in and of itself. Especially potent on this map where you can just send that umbrella across top mid, but it is not gonna help save that first down there, as we see someone from KSU just get a little too eager to go onto top mid.
Yeah, I mean, second verse, same as the first. Both teams opening up very quickly, 2 down on both sides. Seems like KSU's gonna have an early advantage here, popping an aggressive inkjet, forcing everyone on SCAD back. Cooler is online for them. They're holding on the choke. They really want to make sure they don't lose this. Great pick on the 52 here, taking out that 10th umbrella. Finding another one. 2v2 situation. SCAD being Cooler. They are in a decent spot, but now if they headed set up on top mid, they have a really strong defensive hold over the zones. Specials coming online. This is their chance to move. Let's see how SCAD handles it.
Yeah, we see that Gal making great use of the wall to drop down onto right and really fortify this chair location here. And they're gonna be able to find that pick and force the other person back as SplatSCAD is going to retake control of the zones. I wish we could have seen what happened on left there. That was a really quick retake of zones and an excellent use of that whale to start it all off.
Yeah, great coordination from everyone on the side of SCAD. I mean, like, they had the 2 on right, the 2 on left. They flipped the zones very nicely. Back into this game. KSU with a very significant penalty now. We have a real game on our hands. But KSU not giving up. I mean, they have Cooler online. They're pushing in hard on the right side here. The Zap gonna find 2. Big play. It's an absolute bloodbath in mid right now.
Yeah, and it looks like KSU, though, still going to be forced back into their choke after all is said and done. Just going down a bit too much as SplatSCAD is going to try and take that choke for themselves, but successfully repelled. We now see KSU once again making their way back into mid.
They're going to be back in mid, but not fast enough to prevent a loss in lead. They're definitely going to flip the zone now, with SCAD being 3 down. Only the Nautilus very far back. A bit of a reversal of what we just saw. KSU pushing very quickly, and now it's SCAD's chance to try to hold down the choke point as much as they can. But it's the Tenterbella pushing in, the Inkjet pushing in. KSU is making a very aggressive push into the choke. If SCAD doesn't play this carefully, they could lose this vital position, and then, again, as we were talking about, you lose control of the choke, you are very out of this game. Huge splashdown, clearing off the snipe. Whale coming in as well. Very similar situation we saw last time. One flipping the left zone, the other flipping the right zone. SCAD once again back in the game, like not getting locked out on this infamously lockout heavy map. Really good stuff from them.
Yeah, and I mean, let's shout out Joryu, the Nautilus there. That double kill into the splashdown to help clear the dome, solidifying not only the choke, but that high ground as well, after KSU just bullied their way into it with that tent shield and the jet at the same time. An excellent mechanical response.
KSU going 2 down. Unfortunate, especially as they're just about to get to the end of their penalty. A defensive Inkjet coming out. It seems like Ink's doing everything they can to try to hold the zone for just a little bit longer to get that lead, but it's not enough. As soon as they get to that penalty, they have another substantial one to work through, and now they're 2 down. Make that 3 down. SplatSCAD in control of the zone. I mean, this is the time to move up. If you are SCAD, get up into that choke point, secure it, lock it down. Seems like KSU's going to get back very quickly, likely due to Cooler, so they're not going to have as good of an opportunity as I thought. But once again, like, KSU, they're running out of time, only about a minute left in the game. SCAD working through their penalties steadily. And with a big splashdown online as well, it's going to be difficult for KSU to get back in here. We see strikes coming out. There's an Inkjet still online. Looks like they might try to pop it. or not, being a bit patient. Here's the Inkjet. Now's the time to make something happen. SCAD's very close to getting through their penalty. Once again, an absolute firefight in mid. It is just chaos incarnate right now. Finding one, can't find a pick on the Inkjet. All right, the Tri-Slosher, my goodness, Ukamu, this is just outrageous.
There is so much happening at once, and it looks like SplatSCAD's going to be able to hold on through all of that. KSU going 3 down in the meantime. Oh, the strikes are going to save it for a little bit more, but yeah, SplatSCAD reclaiming that zone, reclaiming the choke, and ending the game like that.
Yeah, fantastic, like just fantastic play on the part of SCAD for like the entire back half of that game. I mean, an absolutely explosive push from KSU with strikes, Inkjet, they had the tent pushing up, and they held the line throughout all of it, survived all of those specials, and basically wiped KSU. And by the time they came back, there just wasn't enough time left in the game for KSU to really organize another good push. They just had to dive the zone. And when they were scrambling like that, I mean, it was really easy for SplatSCAD to come together and just clean up those last few picks to secure the victory. I'm gonna go out and say that was one of the most exciting games I've ever seen on Umami Zones. I'm very used to this map being like a 90-second game. One team wipes the other at the start, and then they just lock out for the rest of the game. But no, these two teams really fought their hardest, and it shows. Like, what a fantastic showing from everyone involved.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried for SCAD there on that final fight. We saw that cooler go down on the far right side of zone, but only one person could pick it up, just the Zap, because all 3 of the other members were sitting on that left zone, the other side of the map. I thought that was going to be a really big disadvantage for SCAD going into that fight. Only one person cooler, but mechanically they were just able to actually stuff KSU as they came in through that choke, as they dropped down off of Dome, and that mechanical skill is really what closed out that fight for them.
Absolutely.
And I just found it so impressive.
Yeah, no, and while we're complimenting SCAD, like, kudos to them, we have an actual set in our hands now. Not letting the DC get to them in game 1, they came back with a vengeance in game 2. Scores 1-1, we have an effective best of 5 now. I'm excited, it could really be anyone's game now. With that said, moving into Game 3 on Mako TC, as opposed to the last map mode, which is one I vehemently despise, Mako TC is one of my personal favorites, and I think a lot of people would agree with me when I say that. This is one of the all-time classics, ever since Splatoon 2. It's still very popular now. Okamu, any particular thoughts on this map mode? I could gush about it all day if I wanted to.
I'd be happy to let you. I don't have many thoughts on this mode. It's a classic, I've played it a bunch, but ultimately, I think it's gonna come down to control of those alleys. As I've seen in the matches I've watched and the matches I've played, people who can sneak through those alleys, those clever frontliners who can use those walls and that cover effectively to disrupt that backline, disrupt the supports, and force their way even deeper into enemy territory, really create some chaos there. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, it's a great map for flanks. We saw that carbon roller in game 1. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it come out again with all of the cute little flanks and paintable walls and clever ways to get behind the enemy. I'm also, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I would bet my firstborn we see that vanilla Tri-Slosher come out on the side of KSU again. In my opinion, this is one of, if not the best maps in the entire game. For Inkjet. Vanilla Tri obviously having that powerful Inkjet, Toxic Mist obviously great in tower control. Seeing the comps, there's the Carbon Roller coming back on the side of SCAD, and there is the Tri-Slosher on the side of KSU. KSU seeming to be a little bit less willing to change their comp. It seems like they have a comp they like, and they like to stick to it. SCAD continuing to pull out some spicy stuff, Return of the Carbon, Return of the Nautilus. Both teams opening up in the mid. Let's see who gets the first advantage.
Yeah, right now we can see them just kind of fighting for paint here, but it looks like that Slosher is going to get a little too eager to try and push stack there, and the 3 members taking different angles on SplatSCAD are just able to close in on that, get not 1 but 2 out of that engagement, and their push is going on.
Off to an explosive start on the side of SCAD. Already past that first checkpoint. That's one of the best defensive, that's one of the hardest choke points or checkpoints to push by, in my opinion, just because the plat has such a good view of the tower. But that carbon roller sharking right beneath probably gave KSU second thoughts about getting too close to the ledge, and with them hanging back, they really couldn't reach the tower. They're eventually going to force SplatSCAD back. Tower moving back to mid. basically everyone in the game dying all at the same time. A slight, no, that's 3 down on both sides now. The last 2 fighting in a desperate 1v1. Seems like the Stamper's gonna get called out, forced to retreat. Kind of unfortunate we couldn't see that 1v1 end. Seems like the Stamper's gonna jump out, so I guess that's a slight advantage for SCAD. But really, we're just back in neutral, both teams looking for another opening, trying to get any opportunity they can get to get into advantage, and hopefully get a bit of a push going.
Yeah, and I just want to touch a little bit on how well SplatSCAD seems to be coordinating right now. They only had 2 people alive, but that Stamper started a 1v1, and SplatSCAD was so quickly able to turn it into a 2v1, getting that shot to look over and assist the gal against that Stamper. And because of that, they're able to get their push started once again, blazing towards this second checkpoint. The points are falling down, and this is a snowbally map. You do not want to see this if you are KSU.
Yeah, once again, like, KSU unable to take the defensive positions to stop the tower at the second checkpoint, because that Carbon Roller getting a little bit sneaky, getting behind them, launching off that Zuka, taking their attention away. SCAD's gonna roll right through the 3rd checkpoint, threatening the knockout. It's only the headed, and the headed's gonna go down. It's not enough to stop the tower, and that is game 3 in favor of SCAD, and a very dominant win at that. Like, my goodness, SCAD is playing phenomenally right now.
You said it last match, DC who? They are showing up and saying, you know what? There's a reason we kept playing with only 3 people. We know how good we are, and we're gonna show it on this map.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I completely agree with what you said about the halfway point of that game. SCAD seems to be just so tightly coordinated right now. They're moving together, they're popping specials together. When the Carbon sneaks behind, taking attention away from the main push, the rest of the team moves forward and takes that space. It seems like KSU is a little bit scattered, like they can't seem to prioritize one player over the objective. And that lack of coordination seems to be hurting them. I mean, yeah, you can see right here, like that last push of theirs, like from the, I want to say from like around the 50-point mark all the way up until the 3rd checkpoint, the tower was basically uncontested just because of that Carbon getting behind them like that. Look at the Inkjet focusing solely on the Carbon. They're eventually going to go down. By the time the Carbon did go down, the tower was already threatening the 3rd checkpoint, and by then it's too little too late, it seems like, for KSU. So just fantastic stuff. I'm impressed with that Carbon Roller, like playing the rat in the walls very well. But not to draw on the past too much, moving into game 4, which I believe is actually incorrectly listed on this little visual we have. I believe it is actually Marlin Rainmaker, not a Hagglefish Rainmaker. Definitely the big wild card in this week's map list. A lot of people don't like this one. Okamu, as I keep asking you, any thoughts on this one?
I may, in fact, be one of those said people. I have no love for this map mode. It is very difficult to play fluidly on Marlin Rainmaker, and that comes down to one big key factor in the map's design. There is no way out of mid until that 1st checkpoint is cleared on someone's side. That propeller does not exist, and that fan is not going up or down so long as that checkpoint remains intact. So that bowl of death, that bloodbath, will be happening whether you like it or not. It just depends on how many people you're gonna send into it.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I couldn't have said it better. This map's a death pit, blatantly. Until that 1st checkpoint's capped, like, no, once you go in, you ain't coming out. And if a lot of people drop in and you all, like, as soon as one team gets a disadvantage, it's really easy for the other team to just steamroll them to get that 1st checkpoint, and then from there, you know, it's Rainmaker. A lot can happen in only, like, 2 seconds. So, I mean, they may very well be able to keep that momentum going all the way from the 1st checkpoint to deep into the second half of the map. Alternatively, all the way to a knockout. That said, I would like to say, this map mode, while very unorthodox, that does create an opportunity for some unique strategies to come out. If you're KSU, you know, you've lost 2 games in a row, that last one pretty decisively. They're probably a little bit scattered, but I mean, you never know. Maybe they have some top secret cracked strategy specifically for the gimmicky map that is Marlin Rainmaker that they might be able to pull out. It might be a map mode that favors their comp more than SCAD's. I think I'm getting the team's names mixed up. I'm talking at a million miles per hour. Forgive me. But anyways, it seems like we're hopping into the game very shortly. Again, eager to see if we can see any comp changes. I mentioned it last game, but KSU seems to be very reluctant to change their comp too much. And by now, it seems like SCAD is very comfortable playing against it.
Oh my, I'm quite surprised we don't see the carbon roller coming out here. Such a incredible weapon at fighting up close. And especially with those low grounds, some of the little bit of quote unquote safe-ish area on this map for you to move in and out. That is tragic to see. Two going down to the Rainmaker pop. Follow that up by a third. We were talking about a Death Bowl. It's looking more like a death sink. One side goes down and the other is sort of walled off here with that first checkpoint already cleared.
Yeah, and SCAD not letting the pressure anytime soon. Whales online. Seems like the 52 is going to get a bit too eager going down. They are going to elect to push the Rainmaker despite them being 2 down. It's really only the T-Tech falling back to get jumps in. Definitely the smart play. And here's the tricky thing about this map. With the elevator being up, SCAD kind of has the high ground right now, which means KSU is going to have a very difficult time pushing back in. They're forced to pop not 1 but 2 specials, the Zipcaster and the Inkjet, just to force SCAD out. But at the very least, SCAD is falling back. It's just ahead. It's forced to fall all the way back to the first checkpoint, basically. Trying to get a sneaky pick from the side there. Unable to find anything. Going down, and now we have basically tied game.
That is so tragic if you're KSU, and you know, Mist is not a strong special, but when you're a strong sub, but when you're trying to climb the Rainmaker checkpoint, boy, does it feel so bad. You just barely can't get to the top because you're too slow, and that is what's going to be able to deny that checkpoint.
I was going to comment on that. SCAD pulling out the vanilla try themselves in this map mode. Not about merit. Inkjet is quite powerful to reach over those high ledges up on the plat, and as you just mentioned, Toxic Mist very powerful in Rainmaker in particular. But speaking of powerful, that Inkjet finding, or at the very least creating space for KSU to get a whole 3 picks there, cleanly taking out the last one. That first checkpoint should be as good as gone for KSU, especially with Zipcaster coming in to take attention away. First checkpoint's gonna fall. Basically an even game now. It's just gonna be a matter of if KSU can keep this push going. Them going 3 down, probably not.
No, I'm gonna have to say not. That Zipcaster was able to distract and keep value, but that gal watching the recall point is gonna say, I don't care what you get done. You're coming back here eventually, and I'm gonna put my foot down. And they're already turning that SplatSCAD from a 3-down situation where they took their plat back into a situation where they're contesting KSU's plat. That is the speed and coordination you love to see in Splatoon.
Absolutely. And with multiple specials online, the Inkjet's already out. Strikes are out as well. The Stamper is going to be very cheeky, finding 1. I mean, they're not going to take out the Rainmaker, but they kind of stalled for a while. Though it seems like KSU is losing sight of the objective. They're all stuck there up there on the plat. SCAD doing some sick, nasty movement, getting a lot of points there. Now approaching probably the hardest part of the map to push through, that uninkable slick leading up to the final checkpoint. Getting to the base means they're going to have a pretty commanding lead now. But by no means is this out of the picture. I mean, I say that as they dive the Rainmaker and get another big amount of points there. KSU's really got to regroup here and get SplatSCAD off of the elevator here. Because so long as the head is in his position, they can just keep jumping in over and over and over again, especially if Cooler gave them that fast respawn. The head is already close to another Cooler, so right now, SCAD just has a tremendous amount of momentum. And if KSU keep going, with them continuously going down, they really can't find the momentum they need to get back into this game.
Yeah, you know, it's rough if you're KSU, specifically with this comp. Your enemies are all grouped up in one limited place on this fan, but you've only got strikes to really displace them. The jet can help, but it can also go down very easily, especially when the opponent has a semblance of high ground themselves. And so you have to wonder, how are you going to get them out of there? What are you going to have to burn resources-wise? And interestingly now, we're seeing them starting to take the right path.
And not about merit, it seems to be paying off. I mean, they're going to get taken out, but I mean, they stalled for a lot of time. SCAD is going to go 3 down, but with the Rainmaker deep into KSU's own territory, with less than a minute left in the game, it's a long road for KSU. It's going to be difficult for them. They have multiple specials online. The Zipcast was coming out, although if no team support, it's going to get taken out basically immediately by the headed. I can't help but feel like KSU pops their specials maybe a bit too prematurely. It seems like every time they pop a Zipcaster or an Inkjet, there's a limited amount of team support to really capitalize off of it, and that's part of why it seems they have such a hard time either getting that advantage, getting that snowball going, or getting at a disadvantage. 10 seconds left in the game, KSU's 2 down. They're popping Inkjet as a Hail Mary, but there probably isn't much that they could do in this game unless they get some sort of miracle.
Yeah, and I mean, that whale coming out is just going to deny so much space in mid, tracking people saying, if you're going to go for this Rainmaker, we're not only going to have 4 people on you, but this whale as well. And that's just such a solid way to really close out this map for SCAD.
SCAD continuing to show that first game meant absolutely nothing to them. I mean, my goodness, they are, frankly, like, they are not playing like a Division 4 team right now. The amount of coordination, the speed on display, it makes me wonder, how did they lose that first match? It's either they weren't locked in, or maybe Siberian Squids just were really fracked that day, because SCAD, I am very impressed with this team at the moment. Well, going into Game 5, match point now, score of 3-1 in favor of SCAD. KSU, by no means are they out of it, but it's going to be difficult, especially losing 3 games in a row now. Their morale may very well not be in the best of places right now. And in Splatoon, in comp, mental really is half the battle. Once you begin to lose that, once you lose that morale, maybe some people start tilting or they start getting a little bit quiet with frustration. That could very well snowball into just, you know, like, it builds up and it makes it very difficult to play consistently, or play well consistently, I should say. But yeah, difficult situation for KSU. SplatSCAD 1 game away from winning this set. It's gonna come down to Game 5, Clan Blitz on Barnacle and Dime. A map mode you see fairly often these days. I'm okay with this one. I think it's fine. Okamu, maybe you have some spicy opinions on it.
No, I think this is a great map. It's one of the Clams maps that I prefer. I think we actually have a good selection of Clams maps tonight between Museum and Barnacle. Barnacle, in some respects, very similar to Museum, with that big, wide open space in mid, not much cover to work with, and those 2 low ground areas on the side. But unlike Museum, with those multiple paths to get you in towards the basket, that block, that ramp, that spinner, Barnacle and Dime has got no such luxuries, though it may be in the luxury department. Instead, you have got 1 choke, you're going through plat, and you are going towards snipe. You have no options. How are you gonna break through?
The key of this map, I find, is controlling the stacks, or the plats, whatever you want to call them on this map. Those 2 thingies overlooking mid. That's kind of where each team's anchor wants to hold in neutral. First step should be pushing the back line or whoever's holding that position off of that ramp or off those plats or those stacks, whatever you want to call them. Because it's such a fantastic place to stage a push from. You take control of that, focus on the economy, build up a few power clams or just a good supply clams, build up your specials, and then you want to focus those specials on that top left position, clear that out, and once you get into there, it's basically the optimal place to score from. You have high ground over the basket. The enemy team can really only contest you from one direction. It's such a fantastic place to push, and once that push is over, just fall right back to the stack and do it all over again. It's a map that can very often, it's a map that I find teams often lock out on, because I mean, if you don't have good displacement, one team holding down the your stack can very often just stay there the entire game. But so regardless, like, it's a map where key locations really are the name of the game. I think if you understand the key locations, you just win. So it's gonna be interesting to see which teams kind of play those key locations more. Again, match point, the stakes are quite high for KSU here. I'm curious to see if they're going to continue to stick with the tried and true double slosher comp. They may bring back that pencil, opting not to, running the same comp again and again. SplatSCAD bringing back their carbon. I mean, it did wonders for them in Game 3 on Mako TC, so I can't say I'm too surprised. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, you know, KSU really seems to love this double bucket comp, and on this map, I can't even blame them. If you get your push going, there is a spot towards the left ramp in your opponent's spawn, a devious spot for rollers, for blasters, and for buckets, able to shoot up through that grate onto one of the few pieces of high ground in the spawn. But looks like that carbon's going to be the first casualty of this match, as we've got 2 specials now on the side of KSU. Let's see how they use them.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic placement on that splat bomb on the side of KSU. Seemingly rigging the tactical to explode there. KSU's gonna find a few good picks, but not really moving with them. SplatSCAD back in action, pushing very aggressively. KSU does have 3 specials online. Here come the strikes. Gonna stall for a little bit, but I mean, KSU losing both of their other specials. No Inkjet, no Zipcaster, and now SCAD's in a fantastic position. Loads of paint in mid. And the 52 securing the stack, as I was talking about before, they were in fantastic shape to stage another push. All they need are some specials. Here's the Tacticooler. They have enough clams. Like, it's time to get a push going. Secure that top left position and hopefully score a few points.
Yeah, they've got 2 power clams online now. The whale going out, the strikes coming in. That's 2 down on the side of KSU. Let's see exactly how many they're going to get in. Already down past the halfway mark. We always talk about in Clam Blitz, you want to clear that 60 barrier as quickly as possible, because that is the point at which 2 power clams can make the difference. SplatSCAD saying, hey, who cares about 60? Let's just go for 50.
I couldn't have said it better. 60 points really is the magic number in Clam Blitz. And SCAD getting 2 balls in immediately. I mean, they basically all kamikazed for that play, but in Clam Blitz, like, you're kind of allowed to get away with that. They're right back in it, headed holding down the plat, and store firm control over the economy. 2 power clams, a decent amount of clams between the T-Tech and the Carbon. Finding 2, finding 3, it's just the slosher. Once again, SCAD's in firm control of the enemy plat. Whale coming out to pick out the last one. They're in fantastic shape yet again. It seems like KSU, it's reminding me a lot of Merlin Rainmaker, where they just can't seem to stop SCAD's momentum.
And you know what I'm starting to notice here on the side of KSU is we're getting these zip casters and these jets ready, but we're holding on to them for really what is a surprising amount of time in Splatoon. Splatoon is, for better or worse, a use it or lose it kind of game. Even with Cooler and all of that special saver, it can only do so much. You've really gotta make the most of what you have, and we're still sitting on this Inkjet. I have to wonder what KSU has got in store. Here it comes. Let's see what they do with it.
The Inkjet's gonna come out. I'm finding a lot of picks, actually. They're at least creating space, but once again, I mean, SCAD using Cooler very well. I feel like every single pick KSU gets doesn't really matter when SCAD's just respawning instantly, no special depletion, nothing. Although they are gonna go 2 down again. I think the strikes might have caught a few out there. KSU in really good shape, although with not a lot of clams to their name, they really can't get much of a push going here.
Yeah, they had the picks, they had the aggression, they just didn't quite get that power clam until now. I have to wonder, you know, that Inkjet was glorious, a beautiful showing. I hope we see it a bit more, maybe get a few more of them out. We'll have to see what Ink is planning. The devious slosher scheming up. Who knows what?
We see KSU going 2 down. Not in a good position to be, but seems like SCAD's opting to play maybe a bit more defensively. They could very easily just push the stack if they wanted to. Seems like one sharking there. But I mean, like, so long as SCAD's not approaching, that shark really isn't going to do much. Here it comes out, getting a bit impatient, and they're going to pay the price by getting picked up by the header very quickly. Only KSU's headed left, forced to fall all the way back to the basket. Power clam dunked. Here comes the second one. Past their penalty. Any clams from here on out are just going to be free points for them. It's going to be... It could be a potential for a big follow-up. They're gonna sink a lot. Once again, basically kamikazing. Yeah, there's the wipeout for KSU, but if only 30 seconds left in the game, and what, 78 points to go, it's going to be difficult. They got a lot of clams online, 1 power clam already built. They have a pity on reserve there. But again, like, just they gotta take in the steps. They gotta take the enemy stack. They gotta move up into that top left position, and then they gotta get some points going. But the Carbon's gonna get behind. Finds 1, finds 2. Gonna camp this jump. That's the wipeout, and that is likely the game for KSU. They have that pity. They're gonna get overtime, but it seems like SCAD's giving up to build a clam, thunk it in to end the game once and for all. Maybe not. They're gonna opt to play a bit more safely. KSU's got 1 shot at this. They don't have a lot of time. Inkjet's online. This is really their last chance. SCAD's gonna go 3 down. It's just the Carbon. Their position is known. KSU's gotta go, go, go. There's just not enough time, it seems like. The ball is not moving up nearly fast enough. That's game 5 in favor of SCAD, and with that, the match in favor of them. 4-1. Oh boy, what a set.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. There just wasn't enough time. Clam Blitz overtime especially, so deceiving. You can't just throw the clam before time is up. It has to go in, and that whole animation takes at least 10% of the overtime timer there. So if you're not already at the basket by the time you're 25% left on that timer, It's basically over, and that's what's gonna put SCAD ahead here at the end of this set.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a valiant effort. KSU had the right pieces in place. They had specials online, but I feel like the ball just took too long to move up, and that flank from the Carbon was absolutely devastating, basically taking out the entire team and forcing them to stage that last second push basically from scratch. So overall, fantastic job, SplatSCAD. Congratulations on your win, especially your first win of the season. Love to see it. If you're KSU, it kind of stings winning that first game only to get reverse swept. It's not the best way to lose, but I mean, hopefully there's some important lessons to take away from this set. Absolutely. Special coordination is the big thing. I would recommend just from what we could see this set. I don't know, like, obviously every loss is a lesson, and with this being their first loss of the season, they are definitely not out of contention from playoffs. So I mean, if you're KSU, hopefully you're not too torn up. Oh my god, I can't talk. Hopefully you're not too torn up about this loss. Show up stronger than ever for next week and show the world what you're made of, right? But anyways, Okamu, do you have any news on, or any word if we're going to be doing a play all 7 here? Because we do have 2 games left in the map list.
Oh, let me check.
Based on the fact that
We are gonna get to see a play all 7. What a wonderful treat.
Fantastic. So, play all 7. Of course, obvious disclaimer, none of these matches count for any statistical purposes. We're only here for the players involved to have a bit more fun, for everyone to get a little bit of extra practice, and of course, for SplatSCAD to take a bit of a well-deserved victory lap. And honestly, I'm kind of glad we're getting to do the play all 7, because Game 6, a personal favorite of mine, Hagglefish Zones. I make this joke every time Hagglefish Zones comes out. This is the battlefield of Splatoon 3. There are no gimmicks, there are no tricks, it really is just a straight line of a map with a left flank and a right flank. Because of that, because it's so basic, it really is the ultimate litmus test. It really just comes down to which team has better fundamentals, because there really aren't any like weird tricks to exploit about it. So I think it makes it a very interesting map. Like, it really is just core fundamentals of Splatoon on display. But I don't know, that's me. Okami, what do you think about this map mode?
Battlefield, huh? It's a interesting way to spell Pokemon Stadium 2.
Pick your favorite, I don't know.
Either way, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is a classic map. And I think really the biggest fundamental that Hagglefish Zones test is awareness. You've got these 2 flanks on the side, one on your left, one on your right. They can be coming from either one. Usually it's the right one, but they can come from either one. So you've got to make sure you've got at least someone keeping an eye on that, whether that be directly looking down that alleyway or just flicking their mini-map open every so often and going, maybe that long, thin trail of blue ink signifies something not quite right.
Absolutely. Awareness, checking those flanks, and also working as a team. The zone is kind of situated in between those 2 pillars, which makes it a bit of a choke point. Kind of interesting that where the zone is the choke point of the map. It's a map where special coordination really comes into play, I think, because, I mean, if you're not playing those flanks, you kind of need to focus your specials in that central choke in order to push the zone. Because otherwise, like, one team just sitting in zone, like, looking straight ahead, they can kind of keep you locked out like that. So again, with special coordination being a big part here, and not only special coordination, but those 2 flanks, SCAD with that carbon roller and also just the sheer speed and coordination we've seen from them thus far, I have a feeling they're going to play quite well here. KSU, with this being the play all, these games don't matter for any statistical purposes, now might be the time they pull out some new weapons to see if we can get some new comps going, try new unorthodox strategies, maybe. They're bringing back the Tech Umbrella, and honestly, I think that might be the right play. Again, that's central, like the zone being situated at choke point, 10 shutting down one half of it. It's definitely a strategy that has a lot of merit here. Also noticing the Dreadringer on the side of SCAD, probably going for some zones cheese with Slider. Can't say it's unexpected, but first time they're pulling it out since game 1, so I'm eager to see what they can do with it.
Yeah, not only the Dreadringer we're seeing, but that splash as well. Gonna be able to have a crab, put that crab up on tent, and just control zone from that high ground. But, I mean, already we're seeing such great awareness with that Headit being able to call out that flank, just checking for it with some paint, saying, someone's there, let's deal with that, and then we can turn our attention to the zone.
a bit of a stally start to the game. Neither team really finding that strong of an advantage in mid. We see the Slosher getting called out very much so. No ink stuck with the head there. Surviving for a decent amount of time, but now it's KSU's time to shine. Pushed up in a very forward position. Inkjet clearing out a lot of space. And especially want to note that headed being in mid, the defensive core of the team being that far forward, it's going to make things very difficult for SplatSCAD. They're popping Zuka, trying to focus the headed. The headed barely staying alive. Going to get taken out by the crab. Now with SCAD's chance to move, they're going to find another one. No attempt by left. The Tri-Slosher kind of stuck in a corner there. SCAD's going to flip the zone, giving KSU quite a penalty to work with. Now, kind of tables turn. SCAD's going to have the big advantage here. Special is online. KSU, hopefully they can respond in kind. Here comes the Zuka. Let's see if there's any follow-up with it.
It was a really interesting situation there. Both of those buckets split up and pushed into the opposite alleys on those flanks. Potentially could have been a setup for some sharking, maybe trying to hit the tail of that SplatSCAD push as it moves in, but SplatSCAD was able to sniff it out, deny that opportunity, hold the zone, and still holding as they take that lead.
Yeah, it seems like KSU, they're a bit scattered. Like, they can't seem to get a cohesive push on the zone. They're popping a lot of specials. Here comes the Cooler and the Zuka. They're finally going to flip the zone, in no part due to SCAD going 2 down there. But with SCAD having quite the penalty now, this could be KSU's chance to get back in and try to get some momentum going. They're going to move up to that forward aggressive position. Now it's just a matter of if they can hold it for long enough.
Yeah, they're already through that penalty, but if we look at SplatSCAD's positioning here, they had one up on the 10th. They already had one pushing zone. The Dread was bottom right. The Cooler was out. They have got the initiative here. Are they gonna get that stop?
It's gonna be close. Like both teams grappling from mid desperately. KSU not able to hold on. They're barely gonna miss out on getting that lead, and now with a very significant penalty, we might have some trench warfare here for a while where neither team can really score a point because there's just so much back and forth. SCAD's gonna go 2 down. Inkjet online as well. Definitely an easy pick for him, or an easy flip for KSU. The Inkjet there getting bailed out nicely by their recall, nearly getting taken out by the Dreadwinger's Reef Slider. And KSU now moving up very aggressively. The Slosher sharking beneath the ramp in a dangerous position. It seems like they got called out by the Carbon. Yeah, not able to find much. But I mean, I liked the intent of that play. KSU threatening that lead. They're gonna take it just barely. The header was able to stall for just that critical extra second they needed. And now, I mean, like, SCAD, they got a big penalty to go through, but once they get to that penalty, they're likely to flip lead right away, with KSU only having that 2-point advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how Hagglefish zones tests your fundamentals. There's nothing more fundamental to zones than the fact that if you push up far enough, it doesn't matter if you lose. That stall for enough time is going to delay them from getting to the zone and re-switching that color. But speaking of switching, that lead is switching back towards SplatSCAD again, getting a pick on the tent as that crab is out. The jet's coming out. Will it be enough? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, it's probably game 6 in favor of SplatSCAD. A fantastic attempt on the part of KSU. I liked what was going on there with the Inkjet focusing the zone and the Vanilla Slosher pushing from the side. But I think that crab tank in mid just really secured things for SCAD. I mean, had such a great line of sight on the entire enemy team. And KSU, I mean, like, what are you supposed to do? Just run straight at the crab? You're going to get mowed down. Congratulations to the 2 players on the left there who got that fist bump. I missed their names. Forgive me. I'm sure y'all's on stream know who I'm talking about. But, I mean, definitely a very, zone seems to be where these 2 teams shine the most, I think. Because that game was just back and forth incarnate. Like, SplatSCAD gets an early lead, then KSU responded, flipped lead, and then SCAD got another lead, and then KSU took the lead back, and then SCAD got the lead, and unfortunately, when SCAD got the lead that 3rd time, they kind of just ran into the knockout. Yeah, the crab tank we're seeing here, I think is really what secured this game in favor of SCAD. Like, it just shut down KSU's push utterly and totally. You could see the bucket trying to go for that flank, but they got called out by the headed. The Tri-Slosher was stuck in Inkjet, so they couldn't paint either. Rough situation for KSU, but again, if you're SplatSCAD, you are very happy with that win. A textbook example of a great defense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That Umami Zones game, this Hagglefish Zones game, so much back and forth going on, especially compared to some of the other maps we've watched tonight. Zones might just be KSU's forte.
I believe it. I mean, a lot of people would say zones is their favorite mode, so have at you, I suppose. But on the topic of modes, we're switching back over to tower control now with Undertow Tower Control, a map mode that is divisive, I would say. I mean, I keep asking you for your thoughts. You have any thoughts on this one?
I get forced to play pencil a lot on this one.
Ain't that just the life of the average E-leader main, forced to sell out and play pencil like everyone else?
Yeah, but I wonder if I have any insight on this map for these two teams. We've seen so many Headit and Zap comps coming out. I can tell you I don't think that the range advantage is too terribly strong on this map. There's a lot of high ground in that spawn of Undertow that the teams can contest that tower from. And once it really makes its way past that second checkpoint, that high ground becomes so important to clear, sending someone in on that far flank to clear out that spawn or at least distract the enemy. And even weapons with that strong fighting capability sitting on the tower themselves, able to directly contest the enemy as they rush forward. All very strong, and if you're a long-range weapon, you do not want to be on that tower for that back half.
Yeah, I mean, very well said. To me, the two big takeaways, the two big insights I see of these teams is, I mean, Undertow is arguably the slosher map. I mean, it's up there with Flounder in terms of like maps that are fantastic for sloshers. So many weird little corners and ledges and slopes for sloshers to play with. And if KSU getting that double slosher comp, this might be their map mode to shine on. SplatSCAD this late in the set still pulling out some new stuff, a lot of new stuff in fact. We got a Vanilla Heavy, a Clash Blaster, very funny, and a Forge Pro. A lot of new stuff. Game 7, maybe they're thinking, hey, like, you know, we've been winning so much, like, let's get experimental and try some weapons in the back of our pockets. KSU opting to stick to their tried and true comp, and again, I don't blame them. This is a very strong map for buckets, Tri-Slosher in particular. And I mean, they're gonna take the tower first, although they are at disadvantage, so a bit of a questionable play. Yeah, rightly they're gonna fall back, not even contesting the first checkpoint. Seems like both teams are just kind of stuck in neutral for the time being. But if a big Zipcaster online, that's gonna go down. Never mind, yeah, we're just kind of stuck in neutral hell at the moment.
Yeah, experimental comp is certainly one way to put this. I think the most interesting part is this is the first coolerless comp we've seen out of SplatSCAD, unless you count that unfortunate DC match. So it's really going to be, I think, KSU's ability to use that cooler to set tempo on this map that can give them a big advantage here. And that's going to be important, because when you look at that comp we have on the side of SplatSCAD, a blaster with a Zuka, a set of strikes, and a Booyah Bomb, so great for clearing that tower. You're gonna have to push up and force them away from any range of contesting that tower. And unfortunately, they just weren't quite able to do that then. That push getting stopped at 35. Pretty good push, but you would have liked to see the knockout, right? Just like always.
I think the big thing I'm noticing of this new comp of SplatSCADs is that they're losing a lot of their aggression. I mean, they have that T-Tech, which is it's probably the most forward weapon they have, but even then, like, it's the most supportive of the two shot kits. Then they have the Forge Pro, a midline, Clash Blaster, which is more of like a rat weapon, not a traditional frontline, and then Heavy, which is about as backline as it gets. And that lack of aggression going up against the hyper aggro Tri-Slosher and Stamper, as well as them being supported by Cooler, means KSU can afford to just play a lot more aggressively, and that's going to make things kind of difficult for SCAD. I mean, we kind of saw in that first push of KSU's, they were kind of getting run over for a little while, and as you said, only stopped the push 65 points in. So, I mean, SCAD, they're turning things around now. They're threatening that second checkpoint, but I mean, I have a feeling this might be a harder battle for them, just because they're lacking that aggression and that cooler that would let them play more aggressively with this more passive comp.
Yeah, we're going to see what they can do on this push as the Booyah comes out, but I would almost put it to you that it might be the opposite. They've got this comp here that, as you said, is not really geared toward aggression, but they might still be in that aggressive mind state. And if you've got that kind of mismatch between your comp and your playstyle, that can be dangerous. But it looks like they're saying, no need to worry about that, commentators. We've got it under control, as they're threatening a lead swap here.
Yeah, they're approaching rapidly. It's just ahead, and the head is getting pestered by the Clash Blaster. There's the lead, and a wipeout as the tower's threatening the third and final checkpoint. I mean, oh my goodness, this may very well just be a knockout in favor of SplatSCAD. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is game 7 in favor of SplatSCAD, winning 6 out of 7 games. And that one loss, they were fighting a 3v4. So, like, you really can't blame them too much. I said it once before, I'm gonna say it again. SplatSCAD, I am thoroughly impressed with this team. They are not playing like a Division 4 team.
I mean, that was a tour de force that we just saw. Even when they were put on that back foot at a 70-point deficit, they said, all we gotta do is get that push in our favor, and we can take that to victory. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, taking that brawl on that second checkpoint, extending it further and further until they were able to clinch that wipeout, saying, we don't care if you have cooler, we're just gonna win that many fights. Impressive. That's the only way you can put it.
I especially want to highlight the Clash Blaster in like the last few seconds of that game. I mean, Clash, it's a weapon that gets memed on a lot. It's not exactly the best weapon in the game, but getting beneath the enemy plat like that, just being able to poke up above, they got, I think, 3 picks there, taking out they took out the headed and one other player. I want to say it was one of the sloshers. And them just pestering the ledge like that, I mean, it kind of made it so that KSU couldn't even do anything to stop the tower. I mean, they got wiped out even. Like they did not respect the blaster playing to their weapons' advantages. And they kind of got screwed because of that. So SCAD, like, I mean, we've been saying it basically every game, but fantastic stuff from them. Came back from a pretty rough start that game, as you mentioned, losing 65 points, and then they just said, hey, like, Q push, what if we did the exact same thing ourselves and actually get the knockout? Again, as I said a few games ago, if you're KSU, it kind of stings losing, but every loss is a lesson. There's important things to take away from this game. And I mean, we saw the chops. They have like they have the fundamentals down. They just gotta coordinate and be a bit tighter, I think, especially when using their specials. And then they should be able to get a lot of good wins going. Overall, just great stuff from both teams.
Yeah, that Clash Blaster was great. Blaster doing what a blaster does, but I think it's time for us to do what commentators do and hand off the mic to someone else. A wonderful set. I've been Okamu. Thanks for being here with me. How'd you like to sign off?
Sure. So before we get taken off, just to do some shameless plugging, shout outs to our amazing producers over at CCA, all of the stats people. We love you all. Okamu said their piece. Hi, my name's Nikki. I don't do social media, but if you like the sound of my dumb voice, you can check out my YouTube channel, and Nico Nikki. I used to upload CCA VODs. I don't anymore because I'm old. Oops. But the VODs are still up there. Check it out if you want. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, I don't have any other shameless plugging to do. Okamu, do you?
No, what you see on screen is all you're gonna need for me. But what a pleasure to commentate with you tonight, and what a pleasure to watch that match. I'm sure this next one we've got in store for you will be just as good.
Yes, absolutely. Stay tuned for that. Until then, take it easy, everyone.